Hey, welcome to another video and thanks for clicking on this one. I appreciate your time and I hope that you benefit from these videos. But before we get into the meat of this video, I really want to just address those that have access to the course on Teachable. And I wanted to let you know that that course will be unavailable come the end of September. So if you have any desire to take notes from those lessons on Teachable, then go ahead and do it now. Otherwise, you won't get access to it come end of September. It's been on for about 3 months now or so, give or take. And, you know, the goal was to really provide an extra, I guess, dedication and information to those that may be interested in it. And I hope that I delivered on that. Of course, I've gotten a lot of feedback from you. I always appreciate when you leave your feedback on these videos and, of course, even on the lessons on Teachable as well. So I appreciate all of that. All that information will be something to put to use and make it even better. Know that I'm just the only one doing all of this. And the point here is to make this thing better so that I can better serve you. And I hope that I can continue to do that. You know, I have a full-time job. This is not what I do for a living. Know that I do this just because I know what I went through going through just my own journey from being an aspiring pilot to where I am today. So I hope that I can just help some of you, or maybe most of you, cut back on the time and the amount of effort so that you can, of course, you still have to put your effort into it, but at least it won't take you as much time because now you have a concentrated or more like a direction of where you're going, and you can easily just proceed in that direction and go full speed rather than trying to figure out things on your own. So let's talk about the next thing that I want to share in this video, which is really the main reason why I'm making this video. So if you are thinking of applying for your dream job, whether it's to be a cadet pilot or to be a pilot, how should you go about doing your research for the airline? And I think that's something that I want to talk about in this video. Now I have some notes in front of me which I would like to cover. I won't be editing much of this video, but I want to let's just try to make this conversational. Okay, I'll try not to make it too long. But one of the things that you always need to remember is that when you're doing your research for an airline, where do you start from? Generally speaking, everybody will say start from the website of the airline, okay, of your choice. So whether it's no matter where the airline is, right? You start from the website. They have freely available information that you can get. Now, one of the things that a lot of people always mention is, know about the history, the fleet, the hubs, their destinations, their plans, and what the airline is actually all about. But one of the things that I also want to highlight to you when you are doing your research is to consider the culture of the airline. Okay, every airline do have a specific culture that they claim to have, or they try to portray. So for example, if you go to some airlines, they have this maybe more like of a jovial traits or culture amongst their pilots, where maybe they cater to certain group of people that maybe are going on vacations, right? On the other hand, there's some airlines that want to be all perfect and look proper, and they want to look like they are robots, right? That also exists. So you have to know what group you belong. And then the other thing also, what's the culture within the pilot group? Is it somewhat of a friendly type of culture, or is it some type of, or maybe I won't say perfect, but maybe more on the very professional, right? You remember, as a pilot, you have to be professional at all times. But every airline do cater to certain to level of professionalism. Okay, let's just put it that way. And your ability to understand the culture of the airline goes a long way. And how do you go about knowing this information? I think it goes back to what you know and maybe who you know. So if you have a friend, let me say that again. If you have a friend, or if you know somebody at the airline, that's usually your best point of contact to understand and get a feel for the airline. Now, I always say that forums and all this online, social media and all that can be a good source of information, but be very careful about what you go about looking for, because most of the time the information you would get may not be correct. So be very careful about the type of information you get and just use your own judgment. So the first thing, like I already mentioned, is culture, understand the culture of the airline, outside of just knowing the fleet size, knowing the history of the airline, knowing how things have been run at the airline. Those things are, of course, I guess, a given that you should know about, because if you go in for that interview, they are likely going to test you, ask you questions, and you would want to sound like somebody that is truly interested in airline. And that means that you are very familiar with what the airline is all about. Now, the reason why this other points that I'm going to cover is important is because you're able to use that information to see where you fit in. And that is the future plans and maybe growth or expansion plans for the airline. Sorry about that. If you think about it, when you go in for an interview, generally one of the things they want to see is how you're able to, what are your plans as a professional, or what are your plans when you join the airline? Where do you see yourself in a few years? Those type of questions are generally get to see how much you know about the airline and how you see yourself at the airline. So, for example, if this is an airline that is somewhat, let's say they're expanding, they're growing, well, that means that if you're coming in as a first officer, then you're looking to maybe upgrade to become a captain, right? Remember that leadership trait, they want to see that. So one of the things that you can always mention can always be, your plans to upgrade so that you can become a captain. Remember, they're not hiring you to become a first officer forever. They're hiring future leaders, future captains. And the goal here is that when they ask you these questions, they want to see that you are thinking like one. So if you can answer this question, but using the information that is available to you about maybe the plans of this airline to grow and to expand, and maybe they're buying new airplanes, they're flying to new destinations, like there's just room for growth, right? Your ability to use this information to your own advantage to position yourself as a leader or someone that has a goal or aspires to become a leader can be beneficial. The other thing to also remember is that as these opportunities come up to grow, that means there'll be opportunities to train pilots. So maybe you want to become a check airman. Maybe you want to become a sim or simulator instructor. These opportunities open up with growth. And that means that you can tap into whatever of these areas of these fields that interest you. So, if your goal is to become a simulator instructor at some point, or to become a check airman at some point, or to become a fleet captain at some point, those are things that you can always bring up as a way to show that you know about the plans of the airline and you see how you can fit in, because it also it matches or it fits into your future goal as well. You don't want to go into an airline to say things that does not really match or suit the airline itself in terms of their plans or growth, right? You have to say things that matches with what the plans for the airline also has. I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure if I'm really getting that right. But the other thing that I want to mention here is, we always talk about preparing for scenario-based questions or competency-based questions, right? These are things that I've covered in some my videos, especially on this YouTube channel. And I think that the key thing here is preparing for specific questions is a good thing, don't get me wrong, but you have to understand that everything comes down to your experience, your the roles you've taken in the past. And this is why I always encourage, and even on the PDF file that you see that talks about how you can make your CV better, or how to prepare, make your CV stand out, right? That PDF, one of the recommendations I gave in there was that, if you are somebody that is aspiring to be a pilot, you have to put yourself in positions that will challenge your pilot competencies. And your ability to demonstrate those competencies during your interview will help you to perform well. Now, how do you demonstrate them? Of course, they'll ask you through questions. They may ask you through tests, right? Various ways. But the point here is your experiences generally would help you to make sense of your competencies. So, like, for example, yes, you ask a question, tell me about the time you failed as a leader, right? It may not come out that way, but generally they may ask you, you were assigned a role to lead a team and you haven't been able to achieve the desired goal. What would you do, or how would you handle it, or how did you handle it in the past? Questions may come in various ways, but the point here is they are testing for competencies and your ability to think outside of the box, to use your judgment and find what is being tested for goes a long way. I gave it an acronym in the past where I said you listen, you analyze, you respond, and give an example. LARE, L-A-R-E. I've mentioned this in the past. All right. Listen to the question very well. Analyze the question to identify the competencies. Respond by making sure that you address the competency and the question, and then give an example of a time that you actually, use the competency and what results you got, what you learned from it, and kind of put it up that way. I really have more stuff to say about this, all right? But without making this video too long, all right? There are some other things that you should consider, okay? You should definitely consider the mentors that you may have at the airline, right? These are things that you should, your mentors at the airline, people that they can definitely guide you. So if you know people at these airlines, they would help. The other thing to also remember is that the pilot and management relationship, all right, of that airline goes along with. There's some airlines that are always, the pilot group and the management are always in this conflict. And some airlines do have a very friendly pilot group or pilot management relationship. And, that definitely helps to keep the morale of the pilots up when it's not too toxic, right? So there's so many things I can talk about in this, but I just wanted to share this information with you. And without making this video too long, if you have found value in this one, please don't forget to drop a like on the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. And I'll love to see you in the next one.